What's good, you mad lads?
All right, guys, it's time to get going with this list. Starting off with one of the OG classics, Pyroman.
Wait, hold up a second, Obama.
Yeah, Obama, wait up for Sleepy Joe. He has to wake up properly before we can start.
What is it, Joe?
What is it exactly we are doing?
Holy shit, Joe.
We're doing a tier list for HoN heroes today, Joe. We talked about this.
Oh, right.
So as I was saying, we start off with the OG Pyromancer.
Pyromancer's brought absolute heat to the game for 13 years now. Always funny to play, and his massive firepower always improve a team from mid or short support. Solid A tier for me.
Classic silver take from you, Donald. Pyro is super squishy on mid and susceptible to ganks since he has no escape and poor mobility. He won't make it to the second rune without getting his ass roamed on by the enemy's suicide. And if he's supporting short lane, he's got no way of protecting his carry from ganking enemies.
Pyro is quite the target on mid, I agree, but his insane nuke potential and wave clear should come in handy to nuke creep waves fast and not fall behind on farm too much as long as his team communicates that their lane opposition is missing. Don't forget he can transition to a semi-carry while also effectively execute the mid role with his single target damage ultimate early on.
Put him in A, Obama.
If Pyro is A tier, then literally half of the pool will be S, you silvers.
Don't listen to him, Obama. He's a jungler. He doesn't know what PvP is.
I agree with Joe that he is quite squishy, and in higher ranks you get really punished if you greed too much. I'll put him in B tier. Next up, Draconis. What you boys think of this one?
Draconis with uncontested free farm can be a strong jungler, but it depends on if the circumstances allow him to farm freely early on or not. If the enemy team disrupts his farm early, it can have a detrimental effect on his impact in the game. If he is left uncontested, he can be an absolute unit.
No way a Draconis can have massive impact in a normal game, Donald. The hero is dog shit.
If you got the jungle to yourself, you can be level 13 at 10 minutes, Joe.
No way a Draconis jungle farms that fast, even with uncontested camps. No jungler farms that fast.
Not when you're the jungler, Joe.
Hard cap on that, Donald.
Not kidding, Joe. Having you in the jungle is as safe as North Korea having deployable nuclear weaponry.
I have to give it to Donald on this one. Draconis clears the wood faster than the Brazilian government clears the Amazon rainforest. But his skills are so mid, his entire game revolves around him getting items early. I think B fits him well.
Without a game-changing ulti like Tempest or Keeper, Draconis should absolutely not go above C tier.
Skill issue. I carry games 1v9 with Draconis.
Don't care, didn't ask. Go next before I tilt.
Putting him in B. Next up, we got the goddamn GOAT, the one and only Hook City Devourer.
Literally the highest S tier possible. There's not a single person in the world that hates this absolute fucking slapper of a hero.
Rare Donald W.
Easy S tier, Flint Beastwood next up.
This might just be the most worthless piece of shit hero, no cap. The hero dies to a wet tissue if you get close enough.
I actually like Flint a lot. His range and positioning is his main strength. If he got a solid front line in front of him, he could shred the enemy team without them even reaching him. Underrated. A tier.
Nice to see you finally moved into Crazy Town, Joe. Flint has made a paper for any carry with proper scaling abilities and beats Flint easily in an even game.
Don't care. Sick range, cool ulti, awesome hero, S tier.
That's a pretty stupid comment, Joe, even for your standards.
I'm surprised he even made it without stuttering.
It's a C tier at best, really.
Obama coming in hard with the facts.
Moving on, another old school classic. This time Legionnaire. I think this guy has a very high skill ceiling with potential to really snowball out of control. He can build a lot of different builds and still be impactful. He also has crowd control that ignores BKB, which is a massive W.
The only W about this hero is that I know that the game's already lost when I see a Legi picker buy helmet first item.
As if you would know anything about what a good Legi build is, Donald. Your jungling is always grief and borderline bannable since it's slower than a silver trying to farm with Wild Soul.
You must be really loved by kids considering the way you clown around sometimes, Joe.
Pretty sure that's a two-way street, Barack.
I'm not surprised you're getting teamed with Legi pickers who go helm first item since you're hard stuck in silver, Donald.
It's 50-50 chance you actually get a human teammate instead of a clueless bot. D tier at most simply because how shitty everyone is with him.
The tier list is based on the hero itself, Donald. It's not the hero's fault the players aren't maximizing his full potential. Considering the absolute Chad playstyle he has when initiating, I think a strong B is a good placement.
That is so cap, Obama. Of course it matters how good people play the hero. What good does it do if it's strong on paper, but everyone plays him like shit?
That sounds a lot like copium.
I have no mental fortitude to argue with a fucking parasite insta-picker.
Shut the fuck up, Donald. You're so shit at the game you have to abuse broken heroes every game in order to not be a feeding non-factor.
Guys, let's try to be civilized here.
Lil Bro Bidenator is so lost he probably can't get out of the jungle and have some actual impact in his game.
Is everyone okay if I put him in B tier?
Yeah, sure, as long as it isn't based off of Joe's Legi, then it's a hard F.
I just remembered something that I forgot to ask.
You remembered something? That's a first?
Are we judging these heroes by current hero balance cluster fuck? or by how they were back in the day when there was somewhat good balance and good players.
It doesn't matter, Joe. You were just as shit at the game then as you are now.
At this point, I don't care. Just think for yourself and argue what you believe.
That's the problem, Obama. Joe isn't thinking at all. Not if he thinks Lee G deserves anything above C tier.
You're straight up delusional ranking Lee G that low when you don't even know the threshold HP for insta-kill on his ulti and which of his spells are his spins.
We're going to be here all day at this rate. I'm putting him in B. Nomad's up next. Solid agility carry with insane evasion and disjoint spells. Really slippery and annoying to play against whilst having massive damage output with his Wanderer passive.
I would put this absolute badass in S tier, but he's not a zero-skill autopilot jungler, so Sleepy Joe probably thinks he's bad and shit.
Speaking of bad and shit, how did your calibration games go on your supposed Smurf account, Donald?
Not ideal, Joe, not gonna lie. Just the classic griefing jungle, refusing to participate as usual, throwing the game by themselves.
Just the average success story of good old Donnie.
You don't even know what success means, Joe. Ben and Jerry is going to name an ice cream after me while you keep feeding silvers on actually unkillable heroes like Lodestone. I mean, like, how does that even happen?
You have to consider that Joe is a jungle main player, Donald. It makes perfect sense that he would struggle playing Suicide the few times he actually is forced out of his comfort zone.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
It's because you always stutter and lose track of yourself when you try to talk, Joe.
Back on topic, guys. The originality of Nomad is unprecedented. No other MOBAs has a character like him. Add that with strong versatility as a mid-ganker or a short lane carry. He can be utilized in many ways and is extremely fun to play overall.
Glad to see you're back on the side of reason, Barack.
Actually agree, S or A for me, nothing to add.
I think A is a proper slot for him. Next up is Scout.
If Nomad is A tier, then Scout has to be S, no doubt.
I don't think so, Joe. Scout is pretty much a worse Nomad in every way. Scout can't elude the enemy the same way Nomad can, and needs a diffusal blade in order to purge dust, which otherwise would be a super simple counter to the hero.
For real, Obama, you're capping hard right now.
For once, Donald speaks some facts. Scout's passive scales better, and the disarm mechanic alone makes him much more viable late game than Nomad. Scout's ulti is also much more versatile as it removes percentage-based amounts of HP instead of a flat sum like the Nomad ulti.
Which is sick for HP heavy carries like Berserker, Malakin, or even Shadowblade with a strength build. Also, don't forget his staff effect that make him able to catch high mobility range carries such as Clanks and Silhouette with relative ease. Something Nomad could only dream of.
S tier goat melee carry.
Jesus Christ. Scout is super easy to counter and have no means of escaping or getting out of a tight situation other than running or manning up. Nomad can outplay the enemy with several tools. I can feel my IQ dropping by the second I'm talking to you guys.
I must have Alzheimer's because I don't remember asking.
Okay, guys, but is it really as good as Devour? I feel like A would be a lot more appropriate.
Take the L and move on, Obama.
Fine, but this is just not true. We'll get back to this later. Next up is another classic.
Actually, guys, I'm hungry and gotta go eat. I stole some bird seeds from my octogenarian neighbors. They love watching birds in the morning and often feed them, but I realize they often put the food out the evening before. So it's basically free food.
What the actual fuck,
man?
Donald?